All right, in this video, we're going to take a look at pretty much a catch-all of a lot of the concepts we've talked about in the past few videos. So, example 4, we have a graph of a function, f of x, and we're going to start by finding the domain of this function. Now, remember the domain are all the possible x values or input values that we have for our function. So if we look, we're covering all the x values on this graph between x is -4 and x is +4. And since these are closed circles, we are allowed to equal -4 for x, and we are allowed to equal +4 for x. In fact, there aren't any open circles on this graph. So our domain for our function is bracket -4 to 4 with a bracket. So closed domain here, closed interval rather, for example 4a. Or at our range are all the possible y values. So our lowest y value is at -3, and our highest y value, we have everything else between -3 and +3. And again, we are including those values because we have closed circles. So our range is, with square brackets here, -3 to 3. All right, our x-intercepts, where our graph crosses the x-axis, well, we have two x-intercepts here, -2, 0, and +2, 0. So those are our two x-intercepts. Our y-intercept, which we can only have at most one y-intercept for a function, otherwise it would fail the vertical line test. Our y-intercept is at 0, 3. So one y-intercept, but we can have as many x-intercepts as we want. The zeros of our function, well, the zeros are just another fancy way of saying what are the x-intercepts. So sometimes in math, you got a lot of different ways of saying the same thing. So zeros of a function, the x-intercepts of the function, they're the same thing. So -2, 0, and 2, 0 for the zeros of the function as well. Solve. Where is this function less than 0? Well, this function is less than 0 when the graph is below the x-axis. So all your y values are less than 0 when the graph is below the x-axis. And it's below the x-axis between -4 and -2, not including the -2 though, so that's why we have the parenthesis here. And it's also below the y-axis between 2 and 4, again, not including that 2. So our graph is below the x-axis here. The function's less than 0 between -4 and -2, not including the -2, and between 2 and 4, not including the 2. So we just unite those two intervals, and then we have our answer. Determine f of 2. This is where, what's the y value on the graph when x equals 2? Well, it's 0 because here's x equals 2, and the y value for that point is 0. So f of 2 is 0. Solve where f of x equals -3. So we're working backwards here. We want to know, okay, now if we know the y coordinates -3, what x coordinates or what x values give us are paired up with a y coordinate of -3? And it's the -4 here and the +4 here for x. So just kind of working backwards from part G. So we know what the y coordinate is in H. We're trying to find the x coordinates that make that true. And in part G, we know the x coordinate. We're trying to find the y coordinate for that. All right, part I, number of solutions to f of x equals 1. Well, if we graph f of x equals 1, that's just a horizontal line going through 1 on the y-axis. And it appears that our solutions here are this point and this point, because the solutions to an equation are what are the x coordinates where the graph of the left intersects the graph of the right. So if we just graph them separately, we have 1, 2 intersection points, which is going to be the number of solutions that we have. Part J, does f appear to be even, odd, or neither? Well, looking at this blue graph, it appears to be symmetric with respect to the y-axis. So again, knowing nothing about the equation of the graph, it does appear to be even. So at least we can say that. All right, finally, part K, list the intervals of increasing and decreasing. So we'll start with our increasing intervals. Well, our graph is going up between x is -4 all the way up to x is 0. So between -4 and 0, our graph is increasing, our function is increasing. And it's decreasing then between 0, it's going down from 0 all the way down to 4. So our graph is decreasing from 0, x is 0, all the way down to x is 4. All right, that about does it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.